morning. Today is Wednesday, 27th December 2017. I'm Ebony Brandon. These are our top stories this morning here at SKM News. Now nationally, researchers say the unregulated herpes experiments which took place in St. Kitts and the U.S. exposed a black hole of accountability. Internationally, thousands of Peruvians are protesting ex-President Fujimori's pardon. And in sport, West Indies have been swept again after a depressing collapse to New Zealand. We have a look as well at today's weather forecast and Carib update. Now for a look at the news in detail. More of the late Professor William Halfon's human test subjects for the unregulated herpes tests are reporting suffering adverse effects. And according to top American researchers and ethicists, there may be very little recourse for them. As the gravity and extent of the human trials of Halfon's vaccine Theravax come to light, American researchers are also now expressing deep concern that it's unlikely that the disclosures after Halford died in June this year will trigger significant institutional changes or government response. Carl Elliott, a professor in the Center for Bioethics at the University of Minnesota, recently came forward saying that a company, university or agency generally does not take responsibility or take action on their own to help participants, even if they're hurt in the trial, and added that these types of cases are really a black hole in terms of accountability. Complicating the Halford experiments in an environment in which the U.S. federal government no longer deeply scrutinizes or ends research at universities after learning of such controversies is the fact that Halford carried out a great part of his research outside of the U.S. here in St. Kitts. The former Southern Illinois University professor is now known to have recruited subjects using Facebook and in some cases did not require signed consent forms. He also lied to some participants outright, telling them that the experiments flouted FDA, U.S. Food and Drug Administration oversight. Arthur Kaplan, director of the Division of Medical Ethics at the New York University School of Medicine, has added his voice to the controversial debate, noting the critical and unprecedented role social media played in Halford's ability to recruit herpes patients who were desperate for a cure, and how it was used to flout regulations designed to protect the persons involved. Halford's former employer, Southern Illinois University, initially dismissed questions about Halford's methods, saying the university did not have the responsibility for the offshore vaccinations of 20 participants in the trial because he formed an independent company, Rational Vaccines, to conduct the trial here in St. Kitts and Nevis. SIU eventually launched an inquiry last August, more than a month after Kaiser Health News began asking questions about Halford's methods. The investigation is ongoing, although a preliminary inquiry found Halford's methods to be in serious non-compliance with university rules and U.S. regulations. While experts insist that the university should contact all participants who were injected with the vaccine and offer to help those who have side effects, they pointed out that the university has potential conflicts of interest when scrutinizing its role in the Halford research. SIU shared the vaccine patent with Halford's company, and medical school administration officers promoted his work when Rational Vaccines benefited from former Trump advisor Peter Thiel's multi-million-dollar investment. While the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has made no direct comment on the matter, they have confirmed that they've been in contact with 2 of Halford's test subjects, one of which has reported serious adverse effects. With the U.S. FDA and Federal Office for Human Research Protections, which monitors how human subjects are treated in trials, both seemingly reluctant to take definitive action, it's unlikely that those herpes patients used by Halford will receive any form of help with complaints arising from participation in the testing. Meanwhile, a similar reluctance to have the Office of the Chief Medical Officer take the lead in the local investigation into how the herpes test came to take place on St. Kitts has occurred, with police having taken the lead. Meanwhile, the entire matter continues to be dismissed as fake news by the Dr. Timothy Harris-led government, despite new and more damning information being revealed daily by international media. In other developments, while the two-day holiday did in fact live up to the expectations of tourism authorities with a total of 12 cruise ship calls, it did not shatter records as previously expected. Tourism authorities indicated Friday that 7 ships were scheduled to call St. Kitts on Christmas Day, with another 7 due to arrive on Boxing Day. This would have been historic for the Federation, as it would have represented the most arrivals to the Federation by a cruise ship on any one day, having happened now in the case of 2 back-to-back days. However, high hopes for Christmas Day on Monday 25th were lowered when the Jewel of the Seas and the Sea Cloud 2 cancelled their calls to St. Kitts. The other ships scheduled, Adventure of the Seas, Caribbean Princess, Costa Pacifica, Seabourn Odyssey and Crystal Esprit all arrived on schedule. Boxing Day did apparently go according to plan and break records for most arrivals on one day, with 7 cruise ships: the Crown Princess, Freedom of the Seas, Seabourn, Sojourn, Arcadia, Windsurf, Sea Cloud 2 and Serenade of the Seas. The Federation did not meet its 1 million passenger arrival milestone in the 2016-2017 season. However, a record 988,238 cruise passengers have nonetheless visited the islands this year. Tourism authorities say, however, that the so far elusive 1 million passenger marker will be met in the 2017-2018 season, and with the second cruise pier set to be completed by mid-2018, increasing the country's capacity to host mega cruise ships, this will likely come to pass. In international developments this morning, thousands of people in Peru have taken to the streets to protest against the pardoning of their former president Alberto Fujimori. Fujimori was serving a 25-year prison sentence for murders and disappearances during his time in office in the 1990s. Many believe Fujimori's children, Kenji and Kiko, who are prominent figures in the majority party of Peru, struck a deal to free their father. Charlotte Bellis has the details.
Chaos in Lima. These Peruvians are furious. Their former president, Alberto Fujimori, was pardoned by the current president, Pedro Pablo Kuczynski, a man they believe was trying to save his political career.
I've seen all the people mobilizing. The police were following us, encircling us. They got close to us and threw bombs at us.
Fujimori was serving a 25-year prison sentence for murders, kidnappings and disappearances carried out by a government death squad during his time in office. He led from 1990 until 2000. Critics say his was the most corrupt government in Peruvian history. Protests started on Sunday, and families of his victims led the charge.
I'm angry because I think it's a violation of the memory of our family members. It's a violation of the fight for the relatives for justice and truth.
The reason for the protests is inside this hospital. The frail 79-year-old Fujimori is suffering from low blood pressure and heart arrhythmia. He recorded this message with his son Kenji. Merry Christmas, he says.
Feliz Navidad.
Critics say it was Kenji who secured the pardon. He's a congressman in the majority Popular Force Party that's led by his sister Keiko and voted to save President Kuczynski from impeachment last week. Critics say it was an exchange for his father's pardon. The president has defended his decision to pardon Fujimori.
A todos.
It's obvious to all of us that the government he inherited at the beginning of the 90s, the country was in a chaotic and violent crisis. He incurred significant transgressions of the law as far as democracy and human rights are concerned. But I also believe his government contributed to national progress. I am convinced that those of us who believe in democracy cannot allow Alberto Fujimori to die in prison.
The pardon was backed by a silent majority. A survey in May found 60% of Peruvians wanted Fujimori freed. Supporters credit him with the defeat of the Shining Path rebels and saving the economy from collapse. But for Fujimori's critics, the death squad still haunt them. Whether he's in prison or not, they say they will voice their calls for justice.
And in sport this morning, there was no end in sight to West Indies' misery after they suffered a depressing 66-run defeat in the rain-ravaged third one-day international on Boxing Day to endure the pain of another clean sweep to New Zealand. Not even the return of the fit-again Chris Gayle could inspire the Caribbean side as they folded meekly for 99 for 9, chasing a target of 166 in a contested reduced to 23 overs per side at the Hadley Oval. The Black Caps opting to bat first were 83 for 3 after 19 overs when persistent rain halted the match for nearly 5 hours. Left with only 4 offers to face on resumption following the revised playing conditions, the Black Caps got to 131 for 4, with Ross Taylor unbeaten on 47 and captain Tom Latham getting 37. Left-arm pacer Sheldon Cottrell was the best bowler with 2 for 19. In reply, the West Indies surrendered without so much as a whimper in pursuit of a revised target under the Duckworth-Lewis system. They were steamrolled by a lethal left-arm seamer Trent Boult, who claimed 3 for 18, and left-arm spinner Mitchell Santa, who picked up 3 for 15. Pacer Matt Henry finished with 2 for 18. He and Boult combined in a devastating new ball spell to reduce the West Indies innings to ruins at 9 for 45. Or that should be 9 for 5. And only captain Jason Holder, with an attacking of 34 from 21 balls, managed to resist. Holder was the only one in the top 6 to reach double figures, with number 9 Nikita Miller 20 not out, the only other player to reach 20. The defeat was the West Indies' 7th in their last 8 ODIs and left them with a single win in their last 14 matches. More dishearteningly, the Caribbean side are still without a win on tour after being swept in the 2-test series and also failing to win any of the warm-ups. And now we take a look at today's weather forecast. Across St. Kitts and Nevis today, skies will be partly cloudy with available low-level moistures being able to trigger a few passing showers. Tonight will be partly cloudy with a few passing showers also possible. Seas are rough with swells of 1.2 to 2.4 meters or 7 to 8 feet. A warning remains in place for small craft operators and sea bathers. Winds are easterly at 14 to 21 miles per hour and reaching up to 25 miles per hour over coastal waters, gusting higher in showers. The sea level pressure is 1,017 millibars or 30.03 inches. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:39 a.m. and set today at 5:45 p.m. Across the rest of the Eastern Caribbean, a fair and mainly stable weather pattern with only occasional passing trade wind showers will continue to prevail across the region as high surface pressure dominates the area. The high will also support elevated hazardous sea conditions across the region. Skies over Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands and the Leeward Islands will be partly cloudy with a few light passing showers. Few passing showers could also develop across the islands tonight. Meanwhile, the Windward Islands will experience cloudy spells and passing showers mainly during the morning and early afternoon. And that wraps up this morning's news presentation. We bring it all to an end with a recap of today's top stories. Nationally, researchers say the unregulated herpes experiments which took place in St. Kitts and the United States expose a black hole of accountability. Internationally, thousands of Peruvians are protesting ex-President Fujimori's pardon. And in sports, the West Indies have been swept again after a depressing collapse to New Zealand. I've been your presenter, Ebony Brandon. Stay tuned. Carib Update comes up next.